Welcome to Raising Excellence. This show is led by Michael.
Hello, folks. Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Raising Excellence, one of the most valuable hours of your day. Today, we're going to do some things a little bit different. I am going to be your host, and I'm going to kind of lead you through something new, some adventure that we're going to take you on that is actually going to be a bit of a long journey. We're going to take 8 weeks. We're going to break down something that one of our members has put together, something that he calls Foundations of Self-Development. And during that 8 weeks, we're going to get to learn a lot about each of our members here, who I think are awesome. And you're going to be able to figure out a little bit more about their skills and abilities, as well as a technique that I think you will benefit from in regard to your own self-development and improvement. And so what we've got for today is we're going to actually kind of introduce this idea, introduce what we're going to be doing. We're going to talk about self-development today in particular, and then we're going to touch on our weekly journal update. And then if you've got any questions, by the way, if you're viewing live, we will definitely welcome some questions or comments. Feel free to throw those out there. We'll try and address that near the end. And then with that said, let's go around the room. We've got a full house today. I'm going to start with Agnieszka. Agnieszka, how you doing, and what are you excited about?
I'm excited about life. I'm excited about this project. I'm excited about working with you guys. And you know what I'm also excited about? I'm excited about all of these exercises and techniques that we're going to be trying on ourselves. We got 6 big brains putting together a program that will make sure we're all excellent. So join us on the journey to excellence.
All right. Well, how about Willow? What is exciting about things going on here with you?
The most thing I'm excited about the next couple weeks is this kind of goes hand in hand with recovering from traumatic events, which is kind of my specialty. And any bit of knowledge that I can wring from the rag of life and this course would not only help me begin to heal, but also help me help others begin to heal, which is the greatest reward that I could possibly get from this. So.
Awesome. And Dennis, you're coming to us early in the morning in Europe. What are you excited about? What's going on?
I'm excited by freeing myself and helping others to facilitate freedom in their lives as well. And taking a holistic approach, looking at myself, looking at all of us as holistic beings. We are physical beings, we are emotional beings, intellectual beings, and also spiritual beings, as I would describe it. And so what I'm excited about is to discover who we are, where we come from, where we're going. And I'm tremendously excited to be on this journey with you guys and to share some of my experiences and my skills with our audience.
Fabulous. And then we're moving from Europe all the way to Australia, another continent we got covered. Deirdre, what's going on and what's exciting for you today?
What time is it what's there? Exciting for me? Continue. I can't hear you too well.
I was asking what time it is for you. We know it's early in the morning in Europe.
No, I'm lucky this time. It's 10 o'clock in the morning here for me. It's lovely. I'm buzzing.
Awesome. What are you excited about today?
I'm excited. Hey guys, this is like our first podcast where we're all together. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. So I'm excited about that. This is our entire team, everybody.
Yay. Cheers to the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm not a big talker, I think.
We'll come back. All right, Tim, and you're the final one. What you've got you kind of got the plan for us today. So I'm just going to turn it over to you. You can talk about each of the 8 elements and just take it from there.
Well, thanks, Mike. I'm really excited to have such a compassionate, diverse, intelligent group of friends to kind of walk through this journey. I've been thinking about implementing this course for quite some time and put a framework together. And now we have a team that can build it out and walk through it together and have the experience and create something that creates a lot of value for other people and for ourselves. And the foundations of self-development course starts with self-discovery, because if we don't understand ourselves, we're not starting from a place of foundation. So that's the first module, would be self-discovery. And then we move on to understanding our values, and then what's holding us back. So what are the things in our lives that we need to overcome that are holding us back? They might be limiting thoughts, self-limiting thoughts, prior trauma, relational traumas, just our way of thinking, a scarcity mindset. So there may be some things that are holding us back that we need to overcome. So the third module is working through some of those items for ourselves. And then it's about creating the vision, a big enough vision to get us excited about moving forward. So getting us to create something that's actionable by seeing and getting excited about a vision, and really creating a dream future for ourselves or for our clients. So we can create a picture that's compelling enough to move us forward off of our status quo, or get some momentum moving in the right direction for ourselves. And that's facilitated by understanding ourselves and that values and the vision. And then there's planning. So how are we going to go about reaching our impossible dream? What are steps that we can take? And then what can we put into practice? What actions can we take to make those things happen? And of course, there's accountability, which is the last module. So with a community of like-minded individuals, compassionate, caring group of intelligent people who are supporting each other, we create an accountability community where we can share our thoughts and visions and get support for when it gets difficult, when we have to put it into action, when we need course correction, when we have questions, when we have low energy. This is a group of high energy people, so I feel like I can tap into that whenever I need to. I know where to find you guys, and it's a fantastic community. So what we were thinking for the first module of self-discovery is doing some exercises, selecting from a list of exercises, maybe doing 1 or 2 of those that you pick, and then coming back on Wednesday and talking about what we learned and how we can pull those thoughts and understandings, or greater understandings of ourselves, into the future. So that the list now looks like maybe taking a Myers-Briggs test, doing a birth chart, having Agnieszka do a face reading for us, going through the GEMS personality test, then doing 20 things you like about yourself, looking in the mirror, doing 20 things you like about yourself, tracking your emotions on a daily basis, looking into and understanding like expanding our range of emotions, understanding what they are, understanding what we're feeling. We have these block names that we give for emotions at a high level, anger or depression or this or that, but really there's underlying definitions to those things that we can pull out to get a greater understanding of what we're feeling. Then we might do a Big 5 personality test. So there's a range of items that you could select from, and it's just easy, like hour exercise, and then get a better understanding for yourself and bring it back to the community and talk about what you learned.
Tim, you developed this list and this concept. Tell us a little bit about the background of where this all came from and why you saw these things as the essential elements that they are. And then I'm gonna go around and ask everybody else what are some of the things that they've heard
Yeah, well, I've really been a student of positive development, personal development, and trying to understand and go through this process myself to understand myself better and reach some of my goals. And it's been, a multi-decade process of synthesizing these ideas into a course. And it's still a journey that we're going through. We're trying to improve ourselves and improve the value that we can put into the world on a daily basis. And a lot of that is self-understanding, but then it's managing our emotions in difficult situations, communication skills, and a lot of the information that and relationships that we built in autonomy fed into the idea for the course. And what I thought that autonomy provided us with community, marketing, communication skills, and what it really didn't do is that individual personal self-development path. We didn't get together and craft that success path for each other or for ourselves. It gave us the frame and it gave us a lot of information, fire hose, but then we have to select what is it that we want to do? What is it that comes from our hearts that we want to develop within ourselves and put out into the world? And I kind of feel like everyone is externally focused. Things are coming at us, media, everything is telling us that we're not enough. We need to focus on material goods. We need to focus on how people externally treat us. And I think that's the wrong perspective. By developing ourselves, by looking inward, we can get a better understanding of how we can operate in the world and move ourselves to another level without those external constraints, without those negative thoughts, by turning the inner critic into a supporter, we can get a lot farther in our lives. So that was kind of the impetus for the course.
And that's some good stuff. What does everybody else think?
So we're going to be providing a step-by-step guide on how to turn the inner critic to be our best supporter. Is that what it is today? No, not today. This month, this year?
Well, I think that's a natural consequence of the course. And we will be reviewing that in the drop your baggage or what's holding you back phase.
All right. I'm ready to drop my baggage. In the meantime, does anybody need a face reading?
Oh, I'm ready anytime. That was some hard-hitting stuff that you put out there, Tim. I think it's very logic, and it I bounce it back with how I would kind of define self-discovery for myself. Like I'd like to define the terms, when we start out doing something. So when I think about self, is like, and that really correlates with what you said. It's like, the outside or the physical part of ourselves, like it seems as if I have a physical body, so I guess that's part of myself, as far as I can tell. So, but that really, in the light of what you said, it seems to be the minor part of who we really are, so I tend to imagine like a wheel with a hub in the middle and spokes. So if I imagine one of the spokes to be the physical body, which would be a part of who I am, of myself, then there are several other spokes. And then if you look at our emotional being, of mind, or our intellectual being, then those would be further spokes that all lead to the same hub. And while all of those define of who we are, they're just parts of something that is bigger than just that. As if you were talking about, people tend to define themselves over material things, like, outside things, or things that you can add on, and things that are part of the outside world. But really and truly, we are so much more. So I feel what the plan that you're laying out for us there is something that goes beyond just the physical, but that leads us to really understand that we are more than just physical beings. And I'm really excited about that. And I feel that really, that goes to the core of who we really are. And that being said, self-discovery, or uncover or discover, means really to reveal something that is already there. So it's not to invent something new that has not been there before, but it's something that really lies deep within us, but that, to a certain degree might still be covered up and might be veiled. And so is it that the course and the outline that you have been introducing is really a pathway to uncover, to unveil who we truly are, and through that also to basically open our true potential up to who we can really be in this world, in this life?
Yeah, that's really nice, Dennis. Thank you for that. It comes to mind that we have a lot of fear of external judgment and the way we look or the way we act, and we fear judgment from external sources, and that's only a small part of us. And then also we may be denying things or hiding things within ourselves, or parts of us that we deny, that we don't want to look at. And integrating those things into our being makes us a much more richer internal being and provides a stronger foundation. If we can own those things and integrate them, then we can't be damaged by internal or external judgment. It's just the way we think about it.
So it brings awareness. It brings more awareness to ourselves, to who we truly are.
Yeah, I think what's really cool is that you all have unique perspectives about this kind of thought process and this spiritual world, and you all have things that I have a very kind of emeraldy and materialistic personality, and a rote, like kind of stiff, and I deny my spiritual side or my feeling side in many cases, right? So you all are bringing that feeling side, and I think that as a group we can integrate these things together and create a very strong foundation for self-development.
Sounds awesome, Tim. Deirdre, what do you think? What stands out to you?
I don't know. I'm just enjoying listening to everybody else's comments. Self-development for me is a never-ending journey. I learn stuff about myself, and everything's going great, and then next minute I discover something new. Oh, I didn't know that aspect about myself. Okay, and I kind of grow a bit. That's what I like about this exercise. It's not like it's going to be a stagnant thing. We could come back in 12 months' time and see how much we've changed.
Absolutely. How about you, Willow? Anything stand out to
you? Well, I was sorry, my train of thought's not the best right now. I was noticing how similar the process is to like a IFS, which is the internal family system, about self being a part that is supposed to be a very main part, and a lot of people are like disconnected from it. So doing this process of self-discovery and having a place where you can say, maybe I was hiding that from myself for a reason. Maybe I wasn't ready to look at it. And being okay with that, I think, like Tim said, it's going to give us and our clients just a way more solid foundation to be resilient, which is our ultimate goal.
Absolutely. I think that's, man, I think you hit it right on the head. That, what I would see here is a substantial amount of real data that people can utilize to find out about themselves. And I was just actually looking at a study in which they were saying, well, people can lie on tests. They can fool themselves, and they can, fill out the forms and stuff to make it sound like they're one way when they're actually something else. But when you've got this many different avenues to kind of get to the self-discovery, I think that's a really good way to really start off with a lot of data about yourself that you can go to and say, well, this doesn't seem to correlate. What do I do?
Besides, what would be the reasoning for cheating on a test? It would be to fool somebody, right? Whereas once you turn 20 or 19, the responsibility of raising yourself is on your shoulders. Your parents are no longer responsible for you. Some act like they are, but they're really not. And so how can you take that burden? Like if it was somebody you were in charge of taking care of, you would go the extra mile to discover things about them, to find out their hobbies. Like if it was a child, right? You'd make sure that they're in the correct sports, that their interests are nurtured, and that they're developing well. But why can't we do that for ourselves? And this is the exact thing we're doing. Let's do that for ourselves. Let's figure out who we are so that we can be better people for our own selves and our
Right.
families.
That's the main benefit, right? Like that we would take away from this course, to really know ourselves better, and have more awareness of who we really are, because that will then give us a solid foundation of interacting with the world, whether that be within our personal relationships, within the family, or be it at work, or be at school, out on the road. But that's really the foundation. That's where all interactions that in our that we're having in our daily lives really stem from, and discovering and raising awareness, raising resilience, and raising the quality of beingness with ourselves, but then also with others, will certainly have a huge impact on all areas of our life.
Yeah, so I think there's a range of abilities and quality that people are operating in, and some people, they understand that they want to improve, or they need help, or things just aren't working out for them, and some people are operating at a very high level in their daily life. But everybody can improve by understanding those foundational aspects about themselves and understanding their opportunity with the gifts that they have. And then there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to take a look at our dreams and begin to move in those directions, move in the positive direction, by setting the foundation and then putting ourselves out into the world without fear. We have a much greater chance of achieving much more than we ever thought was possible. And that's what this is about.
So you're saying that what we're going to be taking out of this course, and especially the theme of this first week now, self-discovery, is something that can really be adapted to everyone's liking. So somebody might be able to adapt that to just feel better for himself and be more self-confident. Somebody else might take the lessons from this week and improve his family relationships, and while somebody else might use it more in a professional context and improve his work relationship. Is that what I'm getting out of it?
Yeah, there's just a wide range of application, and it's about raising excellence, really, in yourselves.
Fabulous stuff. I love the way this conversation is turning out. In our planning meeting and kind of in preparation for this episode, we talked a bit about getting into one or two of the specific tests. And Tim, do you want to kind of guide us into what you're thinking as far as what tests or what task do we want to actually focus on, and maybe we can have a little bit of a discussion on that particular subject for our Wednesday episode.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be interesting is if we took the list and then everyone chose what they wanted to do rather than being prescriptive. Just take a look at the list, pick a test or an exercise that.
Is it possible you can share the screen? Maybe we can get a little visual on that.
I don't have it in front of me, so we'll have to post it to the social media. I was talking with Agnieszka about that.
I'm sorry.
And we'll post links to a Myers-Briggs test, birth chart, the GEMS personality test, and then emotional tracking. And then I'll try to find something about the 20 things you like about yourself, a Big 5 personality test. And then if people want to do a face reading, we'll have to reach out to Agnieszka and schedule a time. But I think picking one or two of those exercises, performing them, and then trying to understand what you learn from those and bring those back to the discussion on Wednesday, or if you can, and then see what value we can create from taking those assessments.
Well, let's talk a little bit about a couple of those different things. I have taken an MBTI. You know, I know my Myers-Briggs evaluation, but I mean, there's strengths and there's weaknesses to
Yeah.
each of these. And
Yes.
can we talk a little bit about each of those?
Sure. I mean, I think Myers-Briggs, a lot of people have taken those, and it is a little bit general. And it talks about like 4 aspects of personality, and one that I found really fascinating was the birth chart. And what you have to do is you have to get the time and the place where you were born, and you plug it in and run it. And it sounds kind of strange, but if you think about it, prior to modern life, prior to electric light, people only had the stars to look at, and they lived by the stars. That's how they decided when to plant, when to harvest, what the best seasons were for doing all kinds of human activities. So for thousands and thousands of years, that was the entertainment, was learning and looking about the stars. And the technology that the ancients had for evaluating the stars and putting them into their building, into their megaliths, it belies a knowledge that we've kind of lost. So the birth chart, I found it fascinating. I pulled a lot of good nuggets out of there. I'd say it was like 85% what I would think of for myself. There were a few things that didn't quite make sense, but most of it made a lot of sense. And then the GEMS personality test, that's a basis for the first couple course interactions in autonomy. And that is the pearl, the sapphire, the ruby, and the emerald. And those are nice categories, and people might have a little bit of a couple of those personality types, but it's really an interesting study to go through. And then I also like the emotional tracking because, again, we operate at such a high level that we're not cracking down into the substrata of those emotions and defining them, and then seeing, like, we don't even know the definitions now of some of those emotions and the subtleties of it. So cracking down to the next level and understanding the definitions and being able to express those within ourselves and understand when we're having those feelings is critical to expanding our range. So that would be a nice exercise to go. And the big 5 personality tests, I think that is kind of like Myers-Briggs as well. It's a little bit broad and generalized. I don't know if you all have feedback on these.
Agnieszka, I'd like to give you a chance to talk a little bit about face reading and how that could impact people, and you know the value of nonverbal communication. Hit on that a little bit, please.
Yeah, for sure. That's a very popular topic, and every time I sit down anywhere with like a sign face reading, there are always many people interested in finding out what their face says about them, and it's not based on, like, some people think it's like a psychic reading or whatever, but it really isn't. What face reading is just the analysis of the muscle patterns inside your face. So your face is, different parts of your face are governed by different chakras. So the interpretation of the muscle tension in, say, this part of your face would have a different meaning than tension around the jaw or tension around the forehead. All of these things, all of these different muscle groups have... Oh, Martin, that's pretty loud.
Hi, Martin.
How can we...
Sorry, it opens without muting. I didn't realize.
Mute yourself. So yes, just analyzing the different muscle patterns. This is partly based on work of a gentleman called Paul Ekman, I believe, who does the micro expressions. And so he discovered that the micro expressions are the same all throughout the world. Doesn't matter what your culture is, doesn't matter what your race is, doesn't matter what your income is, the micro expressions will be the same. And in face reading, we take it to the next level by basically the micro expressions that you express when that show up on your face when you have a certain emotion stick on your face if you do it over and over and over. So if somebody's constantly, having a specific thought, that thought will be essentially etched on their face, even as a young person. The age doesn't seem to matter. I mean, yeah, older people have more wrinkles, but that doesn't mean that the attention is easier to read. The attention is just as easy to read in younger people.
My mom always told me my face was going to freeze that way if I didn't stop it.
And she was right. Because you know that, like, people who smile a lot have a lot of smile lines, and people who, right now wearing makeup and stuff, we might not be able to see all of the little things, but even then, there are certain habitual patterns that are visible even with makeup, even with the filters that cameras put on our faces. We can still see right through it if we have the right education and the right experience.
I think that's something that most people don't realize, is that they're, a lot of the nonverbal signals that they're giving off are things that they may not even be aware of, but it's really very true about who they are.
And it's even worse because every single person in the world knows what it means, but they may not have the rhetoric to say it. Like, everybody has said stuff like, oh, this guy gives me the creeps, or she's such a nice girl, or, oh yeah, she's so generous, or she's so sweet. All of these things may or may not be true, but a lot of people have, can see it, can feel what the person is all about just by seeing their face, and they just may not be able to.
There was a documentary that I saw about it was a man who was blind and had been blind since birth, and he did the exact same motions when he won a race. His arms went up and he was just like, yes. And it was the point of the documentary was talking about, like, there are just certain body signals that you instinctively know to do at certain times. That just reminded me of it. It was interesting.
And one of our listeners just commented on Facebook saying that Lie to Me is a great show that shows you the little bit of technique behind the micro expressions, Paul Ekman's work. And I did enjoy that show, but that was before I became a face reader. So
it was decently done.
So it kind of reminds me of Darren Brown. He's a British mentalist, and he had a TV show, and he has a show on Broadway right now where he does some hypnosis, but he just pretty much reads people. And he had a TV show where he could do rock, paper, scissors, and he would win every time. And he could tell people, put a number behind your back, and he would win every time. And then he taught people how to do that on the show. It was very, very interesting. And I know he's reading people, and the sensitivity and the subtlety, and we can all get better at that. It's just a practice.
It's being said that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sure, that body language accounts of most of the information transmitted, right? In a conversation. So it's not even what we say, but it's how we say it again, and it's how we move and how we express it. And I felt reminded when you were talking earlier about the work that I've been doing, teaching capoeira, especially to children and youth. And that's as a Brazilian martial art that mixes it like dancing, fighting, movements. It's done to rhythm and it's very expressive. So it has been really amazing working, especially like in volatile inner city areas, and working with children that are often traumatized and that have been going through really rough times, and seeing the impact also, like how the session, or like even over years, the training would impact not only their behavior and their emotional state, but also their physical expressions, and how the tension in the body would shift. And like I'm in no position to claim that was only because of the training, because I would only have interacted with them so long per week or per month. But I'm convinced that the physical training and the environment that we were able to create, like as a group, impacted them on a physical level, also in terms of the expression, the tension of their muscles and their overall the expression that they carried within themselves while playing capoeira was way different. And sometimes it's very interesting to compare them, you know, when they got their first belt or when they just started training, as you know, later on when they became instructors, and to really see and recognize also how our physical body is connected to the other parts of ourselves, the other spokes of the wheel, so to say. So through our physical body, we are able to connect to the hub, to our true self, and therefore influence our emotional state, and also like even our intellectual understanding of things, and vice versa as well. You know, through our intellect, we are able to take in things and messages, and and incorporating those, we are able to then, you know, move our body differently, or or even like adapt new emotional patterns. So it's very interesting how one spoke, so to say, connects to the other one, and if we influence one part of the whole, then everything like shifts, and that's like a tremendous potential as well that I can see
But you're
through
not taking
the
into
work.
consideration the one thing that you did for those children is you gave them positive feedback, because those children in Jamaica, they probably didn't have very much positive feedback, right? In the school system, it's a lot of corrective feedback. A lot of the feedback has to do with what you did wrong as opposed to what you did right, and so giving them the opportunity where you went, yeah, that was good, that was right, you did it well, you know, hearing that 100 times will shift somebody's inner resilience and make them stronger and allow them to achieve more, because we're herd animals essentially as humans, right? Like, it's important for us to hear that feedback, and it's important to us to get the strength from the feedback from other people. I don't know why, but it seems to be ingrained.
Yeah, also not to like to talk down to them, you know, as if like I'm in a higher position than, but then just to acknowledge their basic humanity and accept them as human beings who might be a little smaller than me physically, but that doesn't really, you know, say anything about their self, their true self, who they really are, and just and being able to communicate to with them on that level also, I believe made a huge impact.
Lolo, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. Me?
Or
Okay,
Vijay?
yeah. I wasn't too sure. Yeah, just about the emotion. Just to go on with what Willow was saying, there are actually only 5 standard emotions that are culturally dependent or age dependent, meaning that you're born with them, and no matter what culture you can go to, they're all the same, and that's the same ones. That's joy, fear, anger, disgust, and sadness. Um, and I guess once you kind of know those 5 different ones, which is everybody does, it'd be easier to kind of get the little nuances that Agnieszka is talking about. It's very, I just find that completely fascinating that even as a newborn, newborns have the same facial features for each of those emotions. And even what Willow was saying, somebody blind. So they did a study with blind Olympic athletes, and they showed the same joy facial expression of winning and the same sadness facial expression as their other Olympic athletes that weren't blind. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's some awesome stuff, man. I really appreciate everybody throwing in on that. And so we talked about several different ways. Does everybody kind of have an idea of which one speaks to them? What test is going to be good for them? And do we want to talk about that anymore? Does anybody want to vocalize that at this point, or do they want to just wait, and we'll move on to our next segment, which is the journaling thing. But if anybody's got anything else to add to this part, this is the time.
I think we're good, Mike. Just if we can do our exercise and come back on Wednesday and see what we've uncovered.
Well, I would say, I'm going to try and do as many as I can, because like I said, the more data that I have, the more accurate I'm going to be on who it is that I am. And so I'm definitely going to be interested in trying to do as many as I can between now and Wednesday, and get myself a lot more feedback and a lot more data to work from.
We
But with that said,
definitely
then
we
go ahead.
definitely need to do the descriptions of the exercises and put them up on our social media. Our Facebook page, Raising Excellence, on Facebook will have the description of each exercise on it, so that way you can probably in the description for this video as well, so that way you can go there and pick which one you want to try with links as well.
Yep.
And we need a way to get on your schedule, right, for the face reading.
Sure, if that's you can always message us on Raising Excellence on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitter, and we'll get back to you with if you need that, for sure.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
one
can
of you guys wants to book a session and we can video it and share your private
Oh my
life
goodness.
with the world.
Ooh,
Can we just send you a
Can we
picture?
beep it?
ooh, I like that.
We'll just send you a picture and you can give us written
can
feedback.
send a picture, but and you can do it privately too, but with the picture you don't actually get the full face reading because you can't say, oh, move your head, you know what I mean? It's just like one static thing.
I think what we should do, Agnieszka, is you should do one for each of us. We should make it anonymous, and then we should have people match it up with our pictures.
That sounds like so much fun, actually. Yeah, it does. We should do that.
And then the audience,
See
like,
if we can guess.
Yeah, they could win
Like a
something,
washing
like
machine.
their
Like a
own
washing
face
machine.
A
reading.
consultation.
We can call it musical faces.
Yes.
definitely bumping
We should
up
do
the
that.
face reading. Yeah.
Do I
It's
have
pretty
to comb my
personal,
hair
is the
before we
only
do it?
thing. Who knows?
We can make it happen.
So with that said, so we've got our assignment for next week. Journaling. Does anybody want to chip in on their journaling experience this past week? I guess I'm just going to go around the room. So, Agnieszka, you want to volunteer your experience first?
I did it. I was impressed that I did it. The first day I wrote it's like 3 sentences. The second day I wrote 3 sentences. The third day I wrote a whole page. But then I went back to the 3 sentences model. So, I think that as I do it more, I still find it very confining. But I also understand that it is my habit to avoid exercises like that. It's just something I do. Oh, I'll just do it 5 minutes before class, and I'll just do it in the hallway. I don't actually have to do my homework. I'll just sit down in the corner. I'll ask what other people did, and I'll you know what I mean? It's that very, very old habit of I don't have to do this. So I'm overcoming that, and every time it's like, no, but you're not doing it for you're not in jail. Nobody's telling you what to do. This is something that you want to do for yourself. Why are you stopping yourself? Like all these questions, right? So the exercise is not so much actually writing, but ensuring that I write every day. And it's been very interesting.
Great. I'm glad. There was something you said in there that was very important. This is the time for yourself. And how much time do we actually give to ourselves to think about who we are and what's going on with ourselves? That's really what this is really about.
This is so interesting. This was exactly the line of thought that I had before coming to this meeting, because I was doing some journaling before, but also I'm very good at beating myself over the head for not doing it diligently every day. And then if I look back, and it's the negative self-talks, I was like, whoa, maybe one of the things that I could gain from this is actually just to observe myself and to look at myself and just to allowing that, if I didn't do it for 1 or 2 days, then that's still okay. And just, being more kind to myself even. So that's actually something exactly I got out of this exercise before. It's okay, I know I want to do it every day and I have to do it to get more out of it and stuff. But if I don't do it, then still, it's okay. It's all right still. And then I don't, I can observe it, but I don't have to be mad about it, because that's not going to change it anyway. That's just going to create more resistance of not doing it again or feeling bad about it. But the idea is to feel good about it and to feel what it does and what it helps me to do. So that was interesting that you mentioned that, because that was really the line of thought I had before too.
And yesterday I didn't want to do it, so instead of doing it, I wrote taking time out from life. Which was my way of saying I don't want to do this today, but I'm going to do it anyway by not doing it.
Lovely. Willow, you want to chip in, or Deidre?
Rock, paper,
Right.
scissors.
Willow's okay. Yeah. Ready, set, ready. Hold on.
Okay. Really? I'm like,
Okay, yes, I'm ready.
game.
Let's play. Okay, ready?
On 3 or
1. Go. You're 3.
you count.
Go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. I got scissors. Oh man, I win.
So did I. That's right. I'll go
Okay.
first. We're gonna have to figure out how to get the timing down on that, because
Intercontinental rock, paper, scissors.
Where can I get
So-
the app for that?
I
Yes, an app.
I had this
Go.
analogy that at first I did not want to do this. I struggle with sitting down every day and journaling. And it was actually wonderful because the very first thing that I wrote, because I sat here for probably 10 minutes not writing anything and getting even more frustrated. The very first thing that I wrote, I'll read it, was I wrote down my fears and resentments for the day, because sometimes I can wake up in a really foggy mood, and it's good to get that out of the way and then move on to planning my day, figuring out what I want to do and all of that. So what I ended up writing or realizing about myself was that I have this irrational fear of writing all of my thoughts down, because it's well, now there might have to be something done about it. So it's totally a procrastination thing. And it ties back to childhood. I grew up in a family that would go through your stuff all the time and read all your notes. So nothing was private, nothing was safe. And I think that was one of the best things about this exercise and this group is it's really impossible to do any kind of sort of self-discovery if you're in danger or you even feel unsafe. A lot of bodily processes stop when you feel like you're threatened or in danger. It triggers other responses to stress. And I don't know where I was going with that, but it was just wonderful. I ended up writing this was the first day. I just, it was like a wine bottle being uncorked, where I was like, okay, that fear is out of the way. Now I can move on to the other stuff. And I eventually got to the point where I have this part that's coming out that's I'm worried you're going to quit doing this, even though it's really good for you. You know, it's really good for you. It's helping every single day. But there's also a part that's you don't really have to do this today if you don't want to. So I'm kind of I relate to you, Agnieszka, where I'm still struggling with that part where it's you don't have to do what they tell you to.
You sell your
That's
soul
wonderful.
if you listen to them.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Wow, that's so true
Thank
to
you
what
so
you
much.
said.
Very nice.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing too. It reminded me of it took me a while to realize what it meant to be in a flight and fight state, and then to realize that for myself, but also in others, and to then in my case deal with children, especially, and some of them as young as 5 or 6, and it took me a while to discover. It was actually almost like a coincidence, to really realize what they would have seen, and they would have seen things we can't even imagine, we wouldn't even see in a movie. And then and it was not writing, but it was by drawing. I got some pencils sponsored, and I said what I'm going to do with the pencil, and I let them draw something. And then because they said, oh, I'm working for peace, so draw me some the worst experience you had with violence in your life. And they started to draw, and I started interview them, and they told me stories, and it was pages and pages, and I was so my god, it was I hit a bee's nest. So it was oh my god, they would voice and they would explain stuff that they saw and that they witnessed, and it was the word I couldn't even imagine that stuff. And they were 5 and 6 years, and some of them and I would encourage them to speak up in front of the group and express that in front of their peers, basically, which they oftentimes never did before. and it was like, wow, it was something else. And I documented it and wrote it down. And then after I gave them another sheet of paper and said, now write down what you want for your future, what you want to do, what is your biggest dream, just to turn it around in a positive. And then they would draw that, and I would like again interview them and talk to them, and then they would present that in front of the group and kind of switch it around. But that for me was a huge awakening. It was like, my God, like I thought, I was dealing with children. They seemed, normal under the circumstances. It was like still harsh conditions, but like they were smiling, and some, they were running about and doing what children do mostly. But after that, it was like had such a deep appreciation of, like, I was like, wow. I could appreciate like how normal they actually were, like under those what they would have seen and experienced. I was like, it was almost impossible that they actually could act like normal children after having seen that, because I would have imagined people, would have broken, just by seeing and experiencing that. But so that gave me again hope, again, like, that you can go through something like that at such a young age, and still, there's something within us that, can hold things together. And although they would have been scarred, but then there's also with very little you can do so much, and they were able to voice that. And I think that's part of the exercise as well, whether you do it just on paper for yourself, but just like you explained, you're basically you're voicing it, or you're expressing it like in written form. So that alone like does a lot. And then maybe at a different stage, or in some cases it might be even a good idea, if you have somebody trustworthy, then to start talking about it, or or send off the letter to somebody, you need to send some lines to, or even just burn it, but there are different ways of dealing with it. But I thought that's what's just run through my mind when you were talking. It reminded me of those situations back then.
That is awesome. I can't wait to talk to you more about that, because that just like tickled a nerve in my brain that's like, yes, that's extremely interesting. We're going to have conversations on the side about that for a while.
You guys can do a whole special on that if you want. Like, do it on live, and we'll put it up.
I was gonna point out also, with what you were saying is, there's like, I'm not sure if it's universal, but I know personally I can witness when someone is reliving, like if they're in a flashback, if they have PTSD and they're suffering from not being here in the moment and they're stuck somewhere else, I can see it on their face. Like, there are certain telltale signs that people react to, and I think trauma has not been so well investigated, that we're not really recognizing it. Because I was gonna say to Dennis, like, it's amazing how children can grow up acting so normal, and the really sad part is surviving trauma just teaches you how to survive really messed up things, and then you get used to just living with it, and you're like, oh, this is normal. I'm normal.
And the
it's
other
a protection
thing,
mechanism, right?
these children who are living in these conditions, they probably think all children are living in these conditions, because that's what children tend to do. They tend to think that everybody is like me. And then I remember the process of discovery that other families were not like my family, and I was like, oh, you're doing it differently, you know what I mean? And even some simple things like turkey for Christmas. What do you mean you have turkey for Christmas? That's so strange. You know what I mean? But it goes deeper. It goes much deeper.
Deirdre, we're ready to listen to your journaling experience.
Sure. Thanks for sharing, guys. I have sentences. But...
One a day? Sorry.
I missed yesterday because I was tired and I forgot.
And
so
you were busy.
Yeah, go.
You were busy.
I was busy. We had like a 2-hour conversation yesterday. That took it out of me. I was like, oh, I think I need a rest.
That's why
that was it.
Also,
after our 2-hour conversation yesterday, I wrote taking time out from life, and that was my entry.
Yeah, so we did 2 hours in the morning, and then Deirdre did 2 hours in the evening. So yeah, busy.
Yeah. So did you guys say what was on your list?
No, you don't have to.
No?
Just your own experience,
okay. That's
Deirdre. What, how did you feel about it? Was it easy? Was it difficult?
It was fine as long as I remembered. So the reason I forgot is because I took it off my desk. So I was remembering because it was sitting on my desk where I could see it. And so I'd come into my office and be like, oh yeah, that's right. I have to do that because I have an alarm that goes off in the evening to remind me to do my evening routine before I go to bed. Just because I have 4 kids and that's necessary. And so it's sitting there, so I could do that, but I cleaned out my office and then I put it on the floor with stuff that I need to go through and organize. And so I just didn't see it there. From what I was writing, any themes? Hold on, give me a quick second. I was going to talk about themes and I forgot to read over it. At the moment, it's about, oh no, I wrote one. I wrote day 5. It's really hot today. And that's it.
Hey, at least you did it. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you. Tim, you want to finish this out with the journaling, and
Yeah.
we're getting pretty close to the conclusion. So
Yeah, I think I did. I'll make it short because I think I did one day, but because I'm so emeraldy, I have a checklist and I check it every night. And then I did write some notes down next to my checklist after I put my checks in the boxes of things that I was supposed to do that I did, and left the ones blank that I was supposed to do that I didn't do, and then got overwhelmed with the things that I was supposed to do that I didn't do. And so, yeah.
well, I appreciate you all contributing, and I really feel strongly that this was worthy of the effort, and I really appreciate what I heard. I would offer some suggestions. Sometimes maybe it's just a question that you hear that sounds interesting. Write the question down. If someone asks you a crazy question or a question occurs to you that's interesting, and maybe it's about yourself, maybe it's about the world, maybe it's about somebody else. And sometimes maybe that's the thing that can stir and make it easier to write something down. I myself, I keep my journal pretty close at hand. I do, foul up a lot of times. Sometimes I don't. I miss a day or two. So don't, like you said, don't feel bad about not doing it. Feel good about the days that you do it, and recognize how valuable that is. When you do write it, when it does make something meaningful, then it's absolutely worth it, and that's what you really want to focus on. But with that said, I guess we're going to wrap it up for the day.
Hang on a sec. I have two things to say.
Oh, go ahead.
So we were talking about tests earlier today and tracking emotions. Now, really good emotional trackers are in the period tracking apps. So it's just like a lady's period tracker where you're supposed to put down when your period is coming and when But usually mine, at least, well, no, I've seen a few of them that come with emotional tracker. So every morning you put in it's either icons or it's notes. You can do both. You put a happy face, sad face, whatever. There are different, there are like 20 or 30 different faces you can choose. And that can help with visual mood tracking. And it's easy to use, right? Because it's just an app. So, nobody's going to think you're weird if you have a period tracker app in your phone. You can just tell them you're trying to get pregnant. And the second thing I wanted to say, I think we forgot one test. I think is very key for anybody who's experienced trauma or who's having like unexplained addiction type behaviors or unexplained emotional charges that don't make any sense. It's a good idea to try the ACE study, ACE, and it's adverse childhood experiences. And then once you sum up how many adverse childhood experiences you had, it make more sense why you're having these unexplained emotions or reactions.
And it will point you in the right direction of like where to reach out and seek help and a lot of the stuff you can find on Google, but sometimes you may need to talk to someone.
Exactly.
That's a really good one.
Any other closing thoughts from the rest of the team? Coaches, psychologists, trainers.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'll just wrap it up then with the concluding remark, and that is that, man, I really enjoyed this particular episode. I think everybody did great. I'm glad to see everybody participating. It was awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, because you really did awesome.
Yeah, and once again, the theme of the week is self-discovery. We'll be covering more topics on self-discovery on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to seeing you then.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye, everybody.